Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. For those of you watching on YouTube, you're catching me in my robe today. I have had the laziest, most chill week. I've been working from my bed all day, every day. I was at summer camp this past weekend, which was so much fun. It was an adult, girls-only summer camp, and I didn't sleep like the entire weekend, right? Like up dancing till 1 a.m. and then up at the crack of dawn to do activities all day, every day. So I am fucking wiped this week in the best way. But I am a be in bed asleep by 10 p.m. girly, and I get my full 8 hours. So this weekend is really like thrown a spanner in the works. So I am just letting my body be chill, and this is where we're at this week. So recording this podcast in my robe, post-bath, post-nap. And I want to talk about something that came up while I was at this summer camp this weekend. I was thinking about this today because I was reflecting on my time and all of the people that I met and all the conversations we were having. And one of the things that I was realizing was like, this was a big ass camp. So there was like between 400 and 500 girls at this camp. And of course, work ended up coming up eventually in these conversations. I talked to so many different people at this weekend. And when we started talking about work, and I would share about Not Starving Artists, and I'm a money coach, an anti-budget money coach for people who don't resonate with traditional money advice, one of the first things that would happen usually was it's like a glass shattering of like, wait, you can be good at money and not budget. I'd like never thought of that before. Wow, totally thinking about money differently now. And then another thing would happen, which is every single person was like, wow, yep, I need to get my money shit together. Or like, oh, I need that. Or like, yeah, fuck, my credit card debt, right? Like I put this camp ticket on my credit, you know, and like I need that because my debt's racking up. And what I was noticing and what I want to share with you all is like, there's so much shame in silence about your money, right? And like how you feel about how behind you are or how little you know or where you should be at this point in your life, especially like being in your late 20s or your 30s or your 40s or even your 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever it is. You can always feel behind. But like every single person feels that way. I did not come across one person at this camp of 400 to 500 people who wasn't like, yeah, I need to get my money shit together. Not a single person was like, I feel so good, baby. I am right on track. Like, I'm feeling awesome about my money. So I just want you all to hear that it is so normal to feel behind. And I'm going to talk with you about why you're not actually behind. And I want to go there in a second. But the thing is, what happens is when you feel behind and when you feel like you don't know enough and when you feel like you should know more, should have your spending on lock by this point, you should have X amount in savings, you should be maxing your retirement account out by this point, you should understand what retirement accounts are and even have one open, right? Or like you should have some stability in your career, you should be living on your own by this point, but you can't afford it, whatever. All of those shoulds, it's like you stuff them down and you keep them a secret because you think that every other person around you has their shit together. Because unless they're your best friends and you feel comfortable talking about this stuff with them, everyone's life on Instagram is so cute. It's so cute and it's so rich. You can't tell me. I could pull up any single person's Instagram feed right now. I'm just going to like scroll through my page right now. Every single person, if I didn't know them, right? I would look at their life and be like, wow, they make a lot of money. Wow, they're totally well off. They're totally happy. Like, wow, they're crushing it. But we know that that's the highlight reel, right? That's not real. And so I want to bring to light that every single person has some ounce of money shame. Every single person is wishing they were further along, right? Like, I am not immune to this either. Are you kidding me? Me being an entrepreneur in these like business realms with like all these other incredible people who have like skyrocketing and scaling businesses. Of course, I'm comparing myself as well. Of course, I'm like, oh, I should be further along, or I should have hit this benchmark already. Of course, those thoughts are going to come into my brain. But the thing is, I hear those thoughts and I'm like, ooh, I know exactly what those are. That's some shame coming up, right? So then I know to self-coach on them or bring them into my own coaching containers or consciously rewrite those thoughts. But then I also talk about them. I'm not going to keep them bottled up inside being like, no one else feels this way, so I can't share. This is like my deep, dirty, dark secret, right? And sometimes money can feel like this deep, dark secret that we're not allowed to talk about or that everyone else has figured out. And so if you even like raise your hand to be like, hey, like I actually kind of don't, people are going to be like, ha ha, boo, you suck, right? Even though that's not actually how people would react, our brains, literally that like caveman part of us think that's what's going to happen. The other thing here is that there's such a stigma around talking about money, especially in friend groups. The amount of clients that I've coached and also experiences I've had in my own life when it comes to splitting the bill at dinner, or you're like going out or like contributing, like everyone's paying for concert tickets, but one person is putting them on their credit card and everyone's paying them back. Or yeah, you go to a birthday dinner and it's like, we're all splitting it, but we're also splitting the B-Day girls dinner between everyone's thing. Or yeah, we're gonna like go out to a happy hour and like get drinks and then they bring the one check, but like everyone's too uncomfortable to ask to split it, or like we're just gonna split it down the middle, or like how do we want to do this, or the person puts it on their credit card but then doesn't want to be the one to be like, hey everyone, pay me back. Like it's just so secret and icky, and then someone inevitably ends up getting screwed over, right? And then there's like money resentment and like things that don't feel good in your relationship with money if you are the one like fronting the bill, but then people aren't paying you back. Like, oh God, it's just so sticky. And all of this would be solved if we all realized that everyone does want to talk about money. It's just the fact that everyone thinks the other people don't want to talk about money, and everyone thinks that other people are better off with their money and don't have any money thoughts, that keeps it this secret dark thing. We need to start talking about it, okay? We were, my partner and I were out with some of our friends in our apartment building. And we went out and we literally had this conversation when the check came, because we were like, okay, yeah, we're going to like split it. Can we do 2 different checks? Because of course I'm never going to be weird about bringing that up or sharing it. And every single time in my experience, people are relieved that someone brought it up, right? And was like, hey, here's how we should do it. Or like, what do you guys want to do? We can do it this way or this way, right? And I even found out, one of our friends that we were like splitting the check with, they said that I actually didn't know this math equation, but I'm going to share it now because I thought it was brilliant. In New York, because the sales tax is 8% and then tip is 20%, what you can do is you can add up the amount that you, like what your drinks and food cost, and then you multiply it by 1.28, and that's how much you send the person who put it on their card, because it factors in the tip and the sales tax. So you don't have to do like one person doesn't have to do weird calculations. It's just a really easy way to figure out exactly what you owe, including tip and including sales tax. I don't know if I'm like the last person to know that, but I was like, that is so great to know that easy, simple math for when they don't let you do 2 separate checks. But it was such a beautiful thing to have this conversation with this couple we were out with, where they were like, yeah, why is it so weird with some people? Why is everyone so weird about just saying, how do we want to split the check? And it's because money feels like a deep, dirty, dark secret. And it feels like if you're asking to split the check, that means like you're poor, poverty vibes, right? Like, I'm sorry, what? But like, I've heard that kind of energy. It's like, well, if we ask to split the check, or if I ask someone to pay me back, that means I can't afford it and that I'm poor. It's like, when did that become the narrative, right? When did asking for someone to pay you back for the thing that you fronted When did that become weird, right? And I'm not talking about like, you go out with your best friend and you like buy their soda. You're not being like, I'm Venmoing you for $1.25, right? Like there's a benchmark here. And depending on your closeness of a relationship too. But the entire point of this episode is I just want every single one of you to know that you're not alone, right? And I want to encourage you to start bringing up money conversations with your circle, with your close friends, with like people you're out to dinner with, like even if your family, if you feel comfortable. Sometimes the family feels like the hardest to have money conversations with, but if you're able to just like throw in some things here and there about either what you think about money or if you're the one to bring up splitting the check. So normalizing talking about money, but then also normalizing being able to talk about money while also being in progress with your financial wellness journey, right? Knowing that every single person is on a financial wellness journey, that everyone has weird money shit that they're working through. Everyone's trying to improve, right? And what this is gonna do is it's like normalizing everyone working on their money and not being financially proficient, right? And like, none of us got this financial education. We didn't. I'm sorry, if you did, you were lucky. And like even the financial education I got didn't apply to me as an artist with fluctuating income who ended up running her own business. I'm sorry, percentaging out a biweekly paycheck literally doesn't apply to me. So all of that money advice I got and learned went out the fucking window, right? People telling you to categorize your spending categories and keep track of it in a spreadsheet. Jesus Christ, did that fuel my financial anxiety? Absolutely not, okay? Where was I going with this? Okay, I'm back on track. My brain took me on a whole anti-budgeting train. Like when I started talking about my experience with budgeting, my brain is just remembering all the turmoil that it put me through. And like, if I just allowed myself to realize, I mean, this is my whole story, right? If I allowed myself to decide how money was going to function for me and I didn't put budgeting and the like Dave Ramsification of money on a pedestal of like, that's what being good at money means, I would have like saved myself a lot of financial anxiety if I had learned that earlier. Of course, my journey is my journey. That's why I'm here now, right? So I wouldn't change it, but I think about that all the time. So what I was getting at, financial education, right? None of us got this financial education, or at least not at the level that we needed to, right? In order to be successful adults. And even if we did, we would have been being taught it by people who are not at all in the reality of the economic and lifestyle and workforce situation that we are in now, right? All of that stuff would have been so outdated anyway. So we didn't get financial education. We're all in the same boat there. So knowing that, and then also not normalizing then just staying there. I want to normalize all of us being like, hey, here's where we're at. There's no shame around this because of why would we be good at this if we were never taught it? Why would we be good at this if we weren't taught how to manage it and work on it? Not just practically, tactically, but then the mindset, the energetic, the emotional side of it. Of course, we're all here. But then it's normalizing being like, and what are we going to do about it? Right? We're not just going to sit back being like, haha, yeah, we all have $10,000 of credit card debt. Haha, yeah, like we're all just really broke. Haha, yeah, we haven't, booked a contract in ages and still just like struggling away at that old, restaurant job. And this is just what life is until I get my big break. Or like, yep, in this job, barely making ends meet. And that's just where we're at. Like, I'm sorry, we can't just sit there. We have to then normalize being like, and we're working on it. And here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm thinking differently. Getting together with your girlfriends and being like, yeah, do we want to like keep each other accountable for our money goals, right? It's like, I feel like people have no shame anymore about talking about their physical health goals, right? Or even their mental well-being goals of like, yeah, I'm meditating every day now, like really doing nervous system regulation. I'm like going to therapy every week. It's like really helping my mental health. Or physical health, it's like, yeah, I'm like on this new running grind. My partner's running a few times a week now. So he's like running and like, someone who's like, yeah, I started doing keto. I'm trying to X, Y, and Z because my doctor said this. And like, yeah, just really trying to tone up, shed some weight, I don't know, whatever. But like people talk so freely about that kind of stuff. So we need to put money in the same realm of like, you're allowed to want to change your money life and then talk about it, right? Like, it's not embarrassing that you're wanting to change your money life, because it's not embarrassing that you want to change your physical health. It's not embarrassing that you want to change your mental health. That's so normal. Same with money. It gets to be so normal that you want to improve your money life and that you're going to take steps to get there, and that we talk about it, that we normalize this conversation. Because when we don't normalize this conversation, the deep, dark, dirty secret, it festers in that like moldy basement, and it just like gets in all like the grime and the gunk, and it just gets stuck in there, right? And it festers, and then that manifests as like this secret thing that's eating away at you. So it's eating away at your self-worth around money, your self-confidence about how you show up in the world as an adult who's a badass and really good at what they do, whatever it is that you do. It's going to eat away at that. And it's going to eat away at your relationships too. Like, if you're in a romantic relationship and you're not able to talk openly about money, that shit is going to bite you in the ass down the road, right? And the feelings that you're having about money, if you're not able to like let them out and feel them, those are going to get stuck in your body. Like, all this shit is going to manifest so poorly down the road if you're not able to talk about it. If you continue to keep it as this like dirty secret that we don't speak about. So, moral of the story is you're not alone. You are not alone, right? And your homework this week is to have 1 or 2 money conversations with people in your life, people in your circle. And I want you to, here's a journaling prompt for you too. You can journal about like what you're afraid will happen if you start talking about this freely. Or think about a specific instance recently where you felt uncomfortable about money, right? Where you were at a birthday dinner and the check was getting split and you didn't speak up and you kind of got screwed over with how much you had to pay. I want you to think about what would have happened. What were you afraid would have happened if you spoke up? Like, let's actually get that on paper to assess that fear, right? And what would have actually happened. And then you can even go to like, what would you have done, right? Or if you like had your druthers, if you could go back in time and like change it, what would you have liked to happen? What would have been best case scenario of happening if you spoke up or said something? So play with that in your journal as well. And remember, as you start to implement this, not everyone is going to have the same reaction as you're talking about it or sharing about it or like not keeping it a deep secret. Like someone who stops drinking for whatever reason, there are people who are going to be so weird about it of like, why are you drinking? Are you an alcoholic? Or like, no, just have one. It's fine. Beer isn't even real alcohol. Or like, oh, I could never do that. Like they're just going to say shit where you're like, what the fuck? That's so dumb. Like, why would you say that? But then there are other people who are going to be like, oh yeah, cool, that's awesome. Or like, yeah, no, good, cool. Like no reaction, a neutral reaction. Or there are going to be people that are like, oh my God, wait, can you tell me more? I've been thinking about stopping to drink alcohol too. Tell me about your catalyst. Like, what was your journey? Like, there are so many different reactions that you could have, but the thing is, you are protecting yourself by allowing yourself to be open about your decision and like be open about this thing that you're doing and that you're trying to do. And it's gonna end up inspiring people who also want to be on the same page as you. Like the people who are so afraid to be like, I have some money goals and like I'm really afraid to say I don't want to go out to this like really fancy bar because it's like, you know, the drinks are $17 and I don't want to buy a $17 drink. But like, I don't want the people to know, like think that I'm like being like frugal or super stingy. And like, if you show up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to have a Diet Coke. And they're like, oh, why? And you like start talking about it. It's like, oh yeah, because I just like don't value spending money on this kind of drink. Then the other person can be like, oh my God, wait, me too. Wait, are you? And then you can like have conversations about your money goals. And then, wow, cool. You've like brought it out into the light and you've made it not weird for someone else who may have been feeling really weird about it, right? That's the beauty. It's like this ripple effect when you start to be not weird about money. When did money get so weird? We don't have to be weird about money. You don't have to be weird about your goals and your desires, what you want to spend money on and what you don't want to spend money on. That's okay. And people's reactions to it might be different, right? It might seem like it's not okay based on their reaction, but at the end of the day, you get to decide what's okay and what's not. Right? And what this is also going to do is it's going to build up your financial confidence because it's going to allow you to have people's reactions to when money is spoken about And you get to stay confident in what you've decided about not only your money plan, but what you choose to believe about money in the face of someone who might not agree with you, right? And that doesn't mean you're getting into a debate with this person, right? But I was having a conversation with someone where my partner and I stayed at the Ritz-Carlton when we were down in Florida the other week, and we paid for it with points. But I had a conversation with someone about it, and they were like, oh my God, that's so expensive. Wow. Like the Richies live there. Like, oh wow, you were in the expensive resort, da da da. And I don't view hotels like that. I don't ever say something's expensive anymore, because I think it puts a binary in my brain of like what I'm allowed to have and what I'm not. It's just this hotel is at a certain price point and another hotel is at a different price point. And the reason they're at different price points is because they have different services. Sometimes those services for me are worth it and sometimes they're not. At the Ritz-Carlton, the services are 1,000% worth it. It doesn't fit into my money plan right now to go there all the time, but if I can do a 3-night stay with points because I know how to lazy girl travel hack, I'm going to do that because I really love that resort. But I'm not sitting there being like, I'm in the rich resort. Oh my God, it's so expensive, da 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 da. So like this person who was having this conversation with me about it, they were having those thoughts and feelings about the Ritz-Carlton. And I have chosen to think and feel differently about luxury experiences like that. And so I'm not going to tell them why I think differently, but I'm also not going to agree with them and like be feeding into that energy. It was just like, yeah, totally. And then I moved on. So it was an exercise, right, for me where I was able to be confident in how I choose to view money in that moment when someone else is having a totally different experience, right? But who knows, maybe that conversation maybe opened that person up to being like, oh, like as we were talking about travel hacking, it's like maybe that kind of experience isn't as far away for me as maybe I was thinking it was, because I don't have to spend $2,000. I can just lazy girl travel hack and get it that way. Or maybe you do spend $2,000, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, it's about you getting comfortable with how you feel about money and then bringing that out into the world, right? It can only help and benefit, like, it's going to trigger all the right people, right? And I use trigger. I don't love that word, but people are going to have reactions to it that are very triggering. And there are other people who you're going to trigger in a great way to like draw them in to you and to have those conversations and to be out and in the light with their own money conversations. And all of that is meant to be like, if you trigger someone in a way where they like think of you differently or have like an averse reaction to you, it's like, okay, but that was going to happen anyway. Like if they're weird about talking about money and like your financial wellness is a big priority for you and like you've got these goals and dreams and visions that you're excited about and they're not receptive to that, I'm sorry, maybe that relationship wasn't for the long haul anyway. Or maybe they have that averse reaction and then 2 years from now they're like, fuck. She was right. I need to reach out to her because she was on to something, right? Because now I've had my moment, right? It was a canon event. Like I needed to go through my own shit to figure out that I wanted to get my money shit together, right? So all of this to say, there's no shame here around where you are at with your money. There's no debt that's too big. There's no savings that's too little. There's no income that's too whack for you to like not be able to talk about your money, because everyone is on their own journey and there's no place in a financial wellness journey where you like are officially okay or like in the green, right? Like a journey is a journey. So like when we were talking about this person who might be triggered by where you are at with your journey, them being triggered is part of their financial wellness journey. So that's not bad either. It's a canon event, like I said, right? So it's like we're all just on these journeys together and that's good. That's normal. Let's talk about it. So I've been having conversations with clients about this too, about like feeling afraid to have certain conversations with friends or family members where there's money dynamics that don't feel great, of like someone thinks that they earn a lot more than they do and so they always expect them to pay, or in the relationship we don't actually have these conversations, or when they want me to look at the spreadsheet and budget, I always feel really shitty about that, and it makes me feel like I'm the child, not their life partner and stuff like that. And so with my clients, I'm like coaching them on how to have these conversations with some neutrality. right? And be able to create a money dynamic that feels good via conversation, because that's the main missing piece, is like we just don't know how to communicate about it. So that's something I work with my clients on. And the conversations are hard because we just haven't had practice, right? Like even if you did get financial education, it didn't come with how to actually have conversations with other people about money. So again, moral of this story, what I want you to take away from this episode is you are not alone. You are not behind. And you can get yourself educated. You are not alone. You are not behind. The people who seem like they have all their money shit together, I mean, they might, but they've also got life stuff going on. No one's living a perfect life. And so we need to take all these people off a pedestal, right? And know that what you are going through is exactly where you're supposed to be in this lifetime, on this earth right now. You are not behind. You are not behind. You are not behind. You can make things happen so quickly in your financial life when you decide you're ready. That's part of what I do with my clients inside of coaching. Like, we're making these goals happen quickly because when you're ready, you're fucking ready. When you enter into a coaching container, it's like, yeah, I'm ready to get my money shit together. Let me get educated. Let me get my cash flow system. Let me get my savings. Let me get my investments. Let me remove my spending guilt. Let me feel like a financially confident badass in 3 months. It's like we move quick. But if you're not ready for that, you're not ready for that. And when you are ready for that, you fucking know, right? You know, and it might feel scary, but you do know. So again, you are not behind. That's what this episode's going to be titled. You're not behind, okay? Everyone is feeling so similar to you, right? You are in the majority. You are in the majority. And I'm sending you lots of love. And if you're ready for one-on-one coaching, the link is in the show notes, so you can sign up for a sales call there. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @notstarvingartists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.